All right, let's take a look at part 5 of Designer Dave's questions for Warcraft 3. This is Abelhawk's video, and then part 6 will be on Designer Dave's channel as well. Go check them out. So let's do part 5. I've got it on 1.25 speed, just in case.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. How are you guys doing? This will probably be the last AMA for me for this set of questions. I believe I've got everything that I can answer.
How many questions did you guys give him?
What we're hoping to do is to get more people participating in it, and that will help continue that part of the series. And then I'm still reaching out to people and seeing if they're interested. It's interesting that since this series has taken off, I'm getting into more contact with people I used to know, but not necessarily the people who want to answer questions like this. I'm not really beholden to the industry the way I used to be. I'm totally a freelancer. I contract out my work to the highest bidder, and as a result, I'm not afraid of Activision blacklisting me or any of these companies blacklisting me anymore. I don't really care. They can hate me all they want. They're not going to be able to stop me from doing my job because I have a reputation and a history of doing good work. Not everyone has that same opportunity, or that is to say, there are people who can't say what's on their mind because of that. And unfortunately, because I do speak my mind so freely, this presents problems for people who are still stuck in that industry cycle and have to deal with the consequences of, say, Activision poaching employees from their studio, or Activision dropping a lawsuit on them, or Activision deciding not to work with them, or Activision deciding that some monetary group that they have an association with should not give money to.
Seems like Activision might have something to do with this.
So just by the nature of speaking freely, you get problems in the game industry. The game industry is actually much smaller than people think, and based on the number of times that I've run into people who I used to work with at different places, and like if I go on my LinkedIn, I'm 1 or 2 steps away from almost everyone in the industry at this stage, which is kind of cool, but also a little bit scary that you've got all these associations built in that you might not even realize. So while it might be sad that this will be the last part of this AMA, I promise there will be more content in the Warcraft 3 vein. My intent is to take some sort of Warcraft 3 series all the way to July of 2022. So we're going to
see Designer Dave play Soft Escape.
And I
complete
think you'll like
all
the
of the
next
levels
part of the series, which I'll talk about at the end of all this. And with that out of the way, let's get on to the questions. What was the process of your work on the Warcraft 3 missions from start to finish? What parts of the work did you have a say over, and which were out of your control? I think I went over this a little bit in the first one, but this question asks for more details on that. So the way that it worked, Chris Metzen would write the story, and he would write basically a mission outline almost, where he would say the beginning and
orcs start here and go to here
because of the nature of the
fill in the rest.
And he would give you some idea of what should go on in the mission. But that being said, once we got that script, we would all do a round table and we would read the script together as a level design team. And if anything seemed weird or out of place, we would basically give some feedback to Chris. But otherwise, one of us would claim dibs on the mission if it spoke to them, as it was with the calling. And then we would do the mission, and we could do whatever we wanted at that point. You would open up the editor and just do your thing. But yeah, it would start like this, where you're just putting textures down and building out a level. Now, granted, early on, we didn't have all of the tools available that we did later on, but really it doesn't
give up at
change that much from beginning to end. In terms of how we approach these missions. Now, each individual level designer had their own creative process. I can tell you that my process was basically I would start with an outline of what I wanted to do, and I would start laying out the map that way. So I'd do some rough outlining of where I wanted things in the mission.
See, that makes it clearer. That's a good idea.
I had a big thing where I wanted things to go up or down.
You can almost envision where you're going to have things if you zoom out a bit more like that.
It's been such a long time that I can't remember the way that I used to work. I know there's a way to make this little square a little bit bigger, but I can't think of it now. Now I'm just messing around. But this is actually a good preview for what I intend to do next, which I'll get to later. In By Demons Be Driven, there's an unused trigger for a gambling mechanic. What was it intended for? Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Let's open that. Triggers. Magic
Can
vault.
You make gold?
It's got to be this. The Magic Vault is a vault, which it looks like a box. I think they made the Magic Vault for Dalaran, and when I saw it, I was like, oh, it would be cool if it would drop like random items. There it is.
That is
so
cool.
This unit here, which can drop items from a custom item table, you just create a set and give a % chance. We didn't have that. So at some point, that's why I was doing this. But then we got that, and so this was obsolete. But my purpose in creating this then became,
because like you said before in a previous video,
in a trigger set,
the editor that we have now isn't exactly the editor they had back then.
So that was the idea, is that I would make one sort of randomizer for all items that you could drop in any map, and then you didn't have to think about it, and you could just everything's completely random, which might be nice in some situations, but probably not for
What's the best
missions.
item?
So
Cobalt
ultimately, it just
Geomancer.
wasn't something that was terribly useful, and I would kind of waste my time. all it does
Stone
is it sets
token is the
this
best one so
integer
far.
randomizer between 1 and 20, and then
Or
the weight is there
Overlord.
because I couldn't get it working, and I was told that
Mana
it might get
Stone,
a weight.
Robe of the
So that's-
Magi.
sometimes you would safety triggers with weights like that so that the game could catch up. But it does poll every 0.1 seconds,
point.
so that's why you would wait 0.1 seconds. So it's just a random number between 1 and 20, and then it drops one of these things. I don't even know if this works, to be honest with you. But yeah, the event and condition is kind of a wonky way to do it, and so obviously just creating a table set on it is better. And ultimately, I think it led to this, but I'm not 100% sure. So there you go. That's what it was for.
What's this? After answering this question, designer Dave failed to notice that his vault could spawn both units and items, which could never be done by a mere item table. Tormented by his mistake, he lost the last vestiges of his sanity. He decided to take a job as Bobby Kotick's secretary. Oh no, not Dave. Even the greatest of us have fallen to Bobby Kotick's will. Yeah, this is obviously a throwback to that scenario he put in where Arthas goes into the mist. And it has the dialogue to explain what's going down in Arthas town after he picks up the sword. This is the bad ending.
A lot of people think King Arthas is one of the hardest missions. Do you agree, and why? Let's go look at that mission. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I know why people thought this was hard. So the goal of this mission was to do a stealth mission with a character who doesn't do stealth.
Yeah, this was really tricky. What's he saying here? Designer Dave had mistakenly gone to the first undead mission on Reign of Chaos instead of the Frozen Throne. Tormented by the difficulty of being a YouTuber, he lost the vestiges of his sanity and decided to become a baker. A baker's not as bad. Plus it will smell really nice. Yeah, I mean, this level's hard, but I guess it's the one where Arthas is kind of the human guard. What was it, the undead? They sort of like that level was massive, actually. It's kind of like set in like a city. And he gets trapped and separated from Kel'Thuzad, doesn't he? And he has to sort of like work his way around and recruit ghouls and stuff.
So you had to pick and choose your fights very carefully. That was sort of the goal. So the reason people might think it's the hardest mission is because if you just like try to ramrod your way through, you're going to get smoked because there's like all sorts of things, triggers in here where characters will fall
you can't
back
possibly
to
win
other
versus those
units,
knights.
and
They're way too
warn
strong.
them. So the villagers would run to guards, and then the guards would come running. So if you play the mission like you would a normal melee map where you just throw your units and stuff, yeah, you get crushed. Like if you try to go through this main gate, you're basically asking to die. And this entrance, I admit, is not very easy to spot. In fact, if I were to redo this mission right now, I would do something like this.
Have a little path.
Because there's no reason to overly hide this kind of thing. There's ways to draw your eye over here. Remember, with the black mask on, you're not going to necessarily see that. I tried to do certain tricks, like this is up on a hill and that goes down there. Assuming that I even did this, I think I might have taken over this level from someone, from Tim maybe. But anyways, the point being that this right here is probably what screws it up. Because once you lose one unit, the rest of this becomes quite difficult, especially if you miss the graveyard, though it's literally right on the direct path, so I don't know how people would miss that, but it's possible to miss it. But yeah, right here, I imagine a lot of people died. Like if we had Valve-style playthroughs where we would get feedback and could see the data from playthroughs, I'm 90% sure there would be like a bunch of players who died right here, and the mission becomes unplayable to them because all this gets aggroed. 3 knights, 4 footmen, 2 footmen in the front. It's rigged. And you have 2 ghouls and 1 Arthas, who is level 1, I believe. You're dead. So that's what I imagine. There's a lot of cool stuff on this map that people probably didn't notice. Like there's a Fight Club reference over here. Yep. His name's Tyler. His name's Robert. Tyler Durden, Robert Polson. Those are references to Fight Club. I think I answered that. So do I agree that it's the hardest mission? No, it's not the hardest mission. It's only the hardest mission if you wait, is this King Arthas? This isn't King Arthas, is it? Oh. It's not King Arthas. Oh. Okay, this is from the Frozen. So it's King Arthas is in the Frozen Throne campaign. Let's open that one up. I'm gonna have a totally different take.
We'll see N1 starter. It's tricky. It's not working well.
I know this map now.
Oh,
so,
this map is
the hardest
sick.
mission in the game? No. The reason people would think this one's the hardest mission is because I've divided your forces across 3 areas of the map. And
thank you very
so
much.
the primary goal of the mission is to stop the villagers
one of the
from
longest
escaping.
by
So you're
far.
slaughtering all the villagers before they can get out of here, and you've got to cover 3 different areas, 3 different paths. Up here with Kel'Thuzad, down here with Sylvanas, and
is
over here with
OP.
Arthas. And the
I think Arthas is like the hardest bit, really.
Between 3 different areas, and so that gets confusing for people. It's like, oh, I got to build over here, I got to build over there, I got to make more troops over here. One of the keys to this mission, though, is that you can sort of incur your way into this area. I mean, once you've choked them off,
He
here,
gets
like,
ghouls and
they're not gonna catch you.
abominations.
You can
Arthas
literally block
does.
this with abominations. This path less so. It's more difficult, and especially because they can come from the top and the bottom here towards
But
CHELMSFORD. And then down
CHELMSFORD's
here,
really
it's
strong
primarily
because he's
you
got
need to have
Frostlover and stuff.
enough banshees to
And he's
take
intelligent, so he regens mana.
because the knights are the biggest problem from the bottom right.
Sylvanas
sort of
gets
cheat
better though
is
because
if
she
you can get
levels
an
up.
abomination to the top right and to the bottom right. The
And you can use
abomination
banshees to
cloud
steal.
will poison everything and makes things a little bit easier. And so mixing troops helps a little bit. But the reason that people lose this mission a lot is not because it's particularly difficult. It's because there's two types of troops. Troops that attack and...
I remember there's like a little secret bit over here on this map. Like if you follow the path around with Arthas, and then like you go left, there's a little camp, and then you sort of go down. And there was, you can buy, I think, it might be like a sort of like one of those big, what are they, like those Ice Crown Guard type units, a summon basically, sort of like that does chaos damage and things like that. That make it much easier.
Just walk past.
Or you can buy that
so
for future levels.
Focus on the troops that attack. And
Shard of something.
Get distracted and start chasing the guys who attack and are fighting with them, and so the villagers just walk past, and so you don't even notice when one gets through. So it's very important that the first thing you do whenever like a group comes into one of the three areas is to murder the villagers. And one of the things that helps with that is if you move up your choke over here on the bottom, after destroying this, of course, that helps you a lot in making sure that you have a little bit of extra time to kill any villagers before they pass. And same down here is like as soon as troops approach this one, use the banshees, take over the knights, and then you have an army of knights that can run down the villagers really, really quick. And then up here, it's a little bit more difficult, but CHELMSFORD is the key because he can slow things with his AoE. I understand why people think it's the diverted attention. You're paying attention to three different areas. You have to do building with three different areas. And so one of the hot tips, if you're stuck on this mission for whatever reason, is to hotkey your buildings. If you put this and this,
just don't be
on
bad.
Hotkey, put it on 0, 9, and then I would have this one down here on 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, and then just whenever you've got money, just hit 0, build whatever, 9, build whatever, 8, build whatever, 7, build whatever, and so forth. And that allows you to focus on whatever mess you're dealing with in terms of fighting while being able to build simultaneously. And that's where most people kind of lose it, is they can't build at the same time as they're fighting.
This level though, man, it gives you all
that
that level.
Either trying to progress or
you can sort of explore, but you've got to defend.
So yeah, I understand why people thought it was hard. But you know what? It's not that hard. You just have to focus and not let the villagers get through. That's all. And I give you plenty of opportunities for them. Don't you get like 20 that can get through before you even lose? How many are allowed through? That's what I want to know.
I think 20 is probably right.
Villagers escape. 20, yeah. You got 20 chances. How are you? Come on. Hardest mission. Next question. What's your favorite cinematic from Warcraft 3? What's your least favorite? I mean, I'm sure everyone has the same answers. My favorite cinematic for Warcraft 3 is Arthas coming home and murdering his father.
I thought it might be.
How can you not like that? That's sort of the apex of the entire story, is that Arthas has come home and the unexpected happens. I mean, it's expected if you're paying attention, but. And my least favorite cinematic is the end cinematic, unfortunately, the one where the Night Elf sperm invade the pores of Archimonde. Just such a dumb cinema. Like, that's just a terrible ending. So. I'm sure most people have the same answer. Have you kept up with the Warcraft lore or not really? You know, I hadn't at all. I think World of Warcraft Classic was the last time I sort of had any inkling of what was going on at all. I have had an unfortunate revitalization of interest in it, and I've sort of looked at what's going on with the Shadowlands and so forth, and I'm just not interested. These stories are not terribly interesting to me anymore. Like Uther's back for whatever reason, and Sylvanas.
Yeah, just don't do it. It's kind of like the Matrix 4 or, you know, stuff like that. It's just stuff that didn't need to exist or didn't need to be done. And like World of Warcraft's like retconned almost everything that Warcraft 3 was in the first place. Like the idea of like the jailer being responsible for Arthas doing everything he did. And like some of these channels, like really, I mean, God bless them. They try to take it seriously because of the sake of, for their viewers, but you are trying so hard to sort of believe this rubbish that there was actually really much more of a plan beyond what Chris Metzen created in Warcraft 3. Like, what you got in Warcraft 3 was probably literally as far ahead as he thought. Like, there was no plans from, like, several years ahead that he had scheduled or whatever. They just winged it. And then when the things didn't fit into how they wanted it, they just changed the story anyway.
This is a traitor, and then she's not, and then she is, and she's been fooled by the jailer, but no, she hasn't. Like, nothing makes sense to me, really. It just seems like a lot of confused storytelling that isn't really going anywhere. If I had to guess what they're moving towards, it would be a total reset of the universe. That would be my guess, which I think would be the best thing for everyone involved.
I mean, like, you like what you like, but at the end of the day, you can't take World of Warcraft lore seriously, whatever. Like, if you've played Warcraft 3, like, going into World of Warcraft lore is like, it's never going to work. It's a different game. Warcraft 3 is designed to be told from a story narrative because it's an RTS slash RPG, although they focus more on the RTS aspects, but still, it had that in mind. World of Warcraft's an MMO. They got to keep the game going, so they got to keep throwing trash stories just to keep the game flowing. It's not like meant to sort of be coherently start to end. You know, it's sort of like a TV series that's gone on for like 30 seasons or something like that. Like, it's going to be crap. The first 6 seasons might be good, but then, you know, it's going to lose its way.
Because without Metzen there, all of the stuff that he sort of set up is kind of gone. So you may as well just start over and do something else. So maybe they will, maybe they won't. But I don't think there's going to be a Warcraft 4, maybe a World of Warcraft 2. Maybe that's what it's leading towards. So we'll see. Why was Reforged so disappointing? It's pretty obvious, isn't it? What did they promise and what did they deliver? Let's look at the promised features for Warcraft 3 Reforged. I mean, like
they're still working
article
on
after article about
just give them another
and
month or something, and they'll have
clan
it done.
system, player profiles, ranking ladders, automatic tournaments, and the possibility to play on our own maps for solo player and campaigns were removed from the game. So, like, it wasn't just that they broke promises. It was supposed to have completely redone cinematics and all this stuff with like full-on animations. Like they had completely redone the culling, and that was like sort of their selling point. It was like, look, we made the culling even cooler, and then they just flat out didn't do it. And that was all the surface stuff that they had promised. They had actually promised in trailers and things like that. They just didn't deliver. I thought they were going to redo all the cinematics, the out-of-game cinematics too. I don't think they did that either. Let's not relive this.
Gotta just say, I appreciate all the cuts there, Dave. Sort of like keeps the flow going very nicely.
Again.
It's hard work actually to do all these cuts. Like, people don't realize from the editing perspective. You've got to keep finding all the gaps and then cut them off. It gets tedious, but it is appreciated.
Blizzard Unbroken Promises.
What are you doing? Succeeding you.
Yeah, all right. Enough. It's making me sad. But it's even sadder than that because of all the things that were planned. And again, I have to point out that Bobby Kotick would not fund this. He didn't want this to happen because he didn't think there was enough money to be made from it. And you can't argue with it in terms of a profit motive. It's hard to say what would have happened if this had actually happened in full. There certainly wouldn't have been as many returns, but ultimately it was simply they set an expectation and they didn't deliver. And that's why it was so disappointing. Nothing's more disappointing than being disappointed. So if they just delivered what they had promised, it wouldn't have gone the way it did. It's just so much sadder because I personally know how much more that they were going to give beyond the expectations. Like they were going to over-deliver, and instead they under-delivered, which is like the exact opposite of Blizzard in terms of how they operated in the past, or at least when I was there. Among the Reforged missions, what is...
I still feel like... I wonder just how much it would have cost them to create something that would have been great. Do you know what I mean? Because when you do still think about it, like Bobby can always try to make the argument that there's not enough money in it, but there's not that much competition in the RTS genre. Like, what are the best RTS games? It's basically StarCraft, StarCraft 2, Warcraft 3, and Age of Empires 2. I don't think Age of Empires 4 is the best. I think it's just the latest that's come out. But if you were to accurately sort of depict it amongst all of its, you know, competitors, I don't think Age of Empires 4 would even really be up there at all. Total Warhammer is not really an RTS game, unless you're thinking about one of those Warhammer games. That was okay. They had something going there, but I don't think it's on the same level. So there's virtually no competition whatsoever. So Reforged could have easily, if it was done properly, I mean really properly, with a lot of love and care, it could have like just completely revitalized the RTS and brought so many other people into it. But, you know, they really missed out on a trick there. And you would have made money from that. I'm sure you would have. Like, it still seems hard to believe that he just couldn't at least come even with putting effort into it. But I guess that could just be me underestimating. Or rather, it's not so much underestimating. I know you can just put out a skin for World of Warcraft and it will make like 3 times the amount of money that maybe Reforged ever would have made. So that's just kind of the world we live in. Like DLC and trash that you can buy that doesn't even have any impact on anything is so much easier to do. Mobile game nonsense, etc., etc. Yeah.
your opinion about the mission you worked on that were redesigned, such as the culling? Is there anything in these missions you wish it was available from the original mission? Yeah, I wanted the zoo. I thought the zoo should be in the culling. I understand why they changed it the way they did. I disagree with it. That's not how I would have done it. Because again, there we go. That's the culling. There's my baby. So I don't have the Reforged mission to do a side-by-side comparison.
Boy.
But I was missing the zoo. I know that supposedly Grank is still
Click on the rat.
as a random from one of the houses, but I think that's kind of lame that you can't go find this secret. It's a random chance now. And I disagree with the way that they made the mission kind of smaller, whereas I was trying to give this vision of like a component of an epically large city. I don't know, maybe I got it wrong and Strathholm was supposed to be much smaller. I don't think so though. And you know what, from a level design perspective, it's not the best layout. I could have made this better, tighter, pulled this in, had some secrets over there or something like that. And overall, it's fine. It's fine what they did in Reforged. I don't hate it. I don't love it either. Who's your favorite hero from the game? In terms of the story or in terms of like to play? In terms of to play, like
Don't say
gameplay
Thrall.
dynamic, it's the Blade Master is my favorite.
There you
Because
go.
he has stealth and he can come out of nowhere and critically hit someone. So you get a bunch of cool opportunities to surprise attack, and he's got so many escape mechanisms. I think one of my favorite strats was like an early Blade Master and then just going into their peon line and destroying stuff. And then as soon as they come after me, I'll just go invisible and wait for them to go away, back to creeping or whatever. Or maybe show up in their creep camp and like kill the monster with a critical hit just before they can. Definitely my favorite hero was the Blade Master. In terms of the campaign missions, it's from the Frozen Throne. Is it Maiev? It's the Warden. I want to say
Yeah.
the name is Maiev, but I don't think that's right. The leader of them. Yeah, that's it, Maiev. So the reason that in the campaign missions I like Maiev so much is
She's
because
sassy.
of her abilities. Blink, that's why. Because with Blink, you can do really cool secrets. All of the missions with Maiev have cool hidden secrets that you can only blink to, but I know I did one of them, and yeah, I put all sorts of crazy, cool little secret areas that you can blink to. The sad thing is I can't remember them all anymore because it was so long ago. Not a big fan of her vengeance ability, but it was fine, I guess. Sort of made her able to like go into areas all by herself and like handle stuff, which I guess was kind of the point of the character, being the Warden. So for playing Warcraft 3, like in multiplayer, Blade Master. For making missions, Maiev, because of Blink. What, in your opinion, is the most well-made mission in the game? The most well-made mission in the game? That's a tough question. I have thought about it a bit, but I don't really have an answer. I would say from a dungeon perspective, the Dungeons of Dalaran was the best mission made. And actually, I'd say like overall, the Dungeons of Dalaran was one of the best missions for both. Primarily because it's just got so many interesting things going on, and it's got the cool secret level. It's one of those missions where you can play it like 2 or 3 times in a row and discover new stuff each time. And
Oh,
those
yeah,
are,
this
those are
one.
the most interesting. And
This is like one of those kind of epic kind of dungeon adventures. Yeah. I'm pretty sure this is oh no. I wasn't sure this is the one that has Kale Fass and the Naga Sea Witch. I think this might be that one. But yeah, there's loads to do in it.
And also you can change how you strategize it. Also, it has a bunch of like cool scenes that you come across, and that's always something that's really fun that makes the world feel alive. Is like when you come up this ramp, you see the humans holding off the undead incursion. So it's like there's all sorts of cool storytelling going on. And then there's the ghost mages and there's just it has the secret level in it. For me, having designed it, so I'm obviously biased. All there's secret paths I even forgot about. Look, I put little doodads here to show you where to go. There's just so much in this mission. A lot of love went into it because I knew it was like my last dungeon mission. So everything that I had thought of during Warcraft 3 that I couldn't get into that mission over there kind of went in here. And then the ending is kind of epic as well. And
The jailer.
pissed off a few people with it. And it has really good story beats too. Just so many good secrets.
The jailer. So it was actually all part of the plan. Because the jailer's the last boss in this dungeon. Oh, shit. Maybe the World of Warcraft lore is completely accurate then.
And the runes and the rune secrets. So good. Sorry, I'm gushing over my own mission. I'm just remembering all the stuff I put in here now. But it's one of the best missions in terms of like it has all these. It's got a magic vault. It just drops it to knowledge. It's got the indicators from the runes. It's got the secret areas that you can go in here and come out in a different area, and lots of opportunities to
You
get
have 2 people stepping on the
reinforcements.
red
It's got
rune to
good
open up
visual
something.
storytelling. You can see the undead coming in from underground and attacking, and there's conflict and. It's just such a interesting kind of high level mission, and there's a lot of intrigue and mystery and like who made these and who were these ghostly archmages, and it's just one of my favorites to remember. Is it the most well-made mission in the game? I don't know. It was the most It was the mission I had the most fun making, I would say. The culling was kind of a chore. At some point it became a chore because making your own AI, I just don't recommend that. It's rough. What is your least favorite mission in Warcraft 3? To have made or just in general? I guess in general, the early missions are always kind of boring. And Tim Campbell had a good point that the first missions for the campaigns should be the last ones done because you want to give the best impression. But when we're making the first missions, we just have no idea what we're doing at that point. So really, if you want to give a good impression, you want your first missions to be the last ones that you do because then you know all the tricks and all the cool stuff that you can pull off. And then the first missions would shine. We didn't obviously do that because we got the script in a certain order. So those missions had to be worked on.
True, but you got to build up at the same time. In terms of
my least favorite to work on, at some point the culling when it came to debugging the culling of Stratholme, it got real bad. And that's why Mike Morheim had to basically come and do programming again. It's because my mission had so many bugs in it and they were so difficult to debug that I could no longer deal with it, which is just, sort of a bad scenario to be in. I wouldn't say it's my least favorite mission. It was just my least favorite mission.
You're fucked up if you piss off Mike Morheim.
Any mission where there was a countdown timer and you were defending something, those are my least favorite missions across the board. Because you can often hit this point where you're going to lose and there's nothing you can do about it, but you don't know it yet. So you continue to play on for another 5-10 minutes and then you're like, oh, wait, there's no way to win, especially when the countdown timer is like over 30 minutes long. Never, ever do that. If WoW had not happened, what would have been the likeliest next step for Warcraft? Another expansion or a Warcraft 4? It would not have been another expansion. That's just not the Blizzard way. You do one expansion and then you're done. If there had been another expansion, it would have been from another studio, but who's going to do that? So I would say, I don't know, I think Hearthstone would have happened.
So close to the end here, but I've said this before on one of the other ones, but you really do wonder just how many expansions. I know they say, he just said, they only do one expansion, but Warcraft 3, man, I think that could have had quite a few expansions, stories to tell.
Regardless of WoW. So that would have been the next Warcraft kind of thing. After that, would it have been a Warcraft 4? If Blizzard had not been bought by Activision, probably. But with Activision in control of Blizzard, there will never be a Warcraft 4. The only way there's ever a Warcraft 4 is if another studio makes a better RTS and everyone buys it and it shows that there's like a way to make gobs of money, billions of dollars off
there you go.
Then
That's
Activision
smart.
Would make a Warcraft 4. So I put the chances between 1 out of 1,000 and hell freezing over. So probably not. There'll probably never be a Warcraft 4.
I like it. That's the logical response. It's pretty dark, that. There will never be... There has to be tons of money in it. Oh, he's looking evil here. We're going to move on from those dark thoughts of never being a Warcraft 4 to more questions.
Next question. If you could replace any abilities in the game, what would they be? I don't know. So I would replace any active passives, meaning any, like Tyrande. She has like is it a quick shot on her bow that you can like toggle on and off? I would replace all of those within a more active ability, like a one-time frost arrow that like freezes them in place for a couple seconds and then has a cooldown, rather than like an auto on that uses mana.
That's fair enough.
I hated all the passive abilities that were auto shots that used mana. They're not fun to use. It kind of diminishes the hero a bit, and they could easily be reworked into some sort of active ability. Yeah, any passive main ability I would rework into an active that you have to like think about and use in some fashion. What work did you do on WoW? Wow, what work did I do in World of Warcraft? I think the best thing to do here would be to show you my list of things I did. Work specifics, here we go. Okay, for World of Warcraft. See, I actually kept a detailed list. Actually, it looks like I haven't done anything. I haven't updated this. I started...
Let's have a sneak peek. What's going on here? So is this a resume? Man, I haven't even like many years ago, like I barely did anything with my resume. I'm so lazy. I just hate the idea of writing down what it is I've done. Like I haven't noted anything I've ever done, basically. Oh dear. I'd stand no chance of getting a job if it depended on like a good resume these days.
To update it for Wasteland 3 and I gave up. Anyways, on World of Warcraft, I did Whizbang Crank Toggle and the Buzzbox quests, Tok'ran Pathseeker, Kargal Battlescar and the Conscription quests, Sergra Darkthorn in her quest series, Darsock, Swiftdagger, and the Harpy quests. Ilyana.
I mean, this is quite straightforward.
Which
this is a probably better way to do a
Asheville.
resume.
Delgrim the Purifier, Battlefield,
Just
Shadow
keep it
Strike,
short and sweet, but
Alpha Max
actually,
quests.
if they
I think
want to go
most
into
of
more
those
information,
were
then they
destroyed.
can click
So
the
yeah,
link.
those are the main quest lines I did. I think between them all, there's like 30-some quests. But the most common one that people have actually experienced is the Serica Darkthorn quests, where she's sending you around the crossroads to sort of learn the area. The interesting thing about that quest line, I don't even know if this link works anymore. Let's see. Oh, it does.
Huh. Yeah, Fotbot, you remember
There's
that,
like
do
12
you?
quests in this series. The interesting thing about
That,
Serica
that was the way you got your information, was Fotbot. It wasn't Wowhead, it was Fotbot back then.
Darkthorn is that when I first wrote these quests, she had different dialogue if you were a male or female character. If you were a female character, she would like praise you and talk about how great it is that you're
why
in the
wouldn't
Horde.
it
And if you
be?
were a male character, she'd basically call you a lazy piece
Kindness
of shit.
request.
And
Next time
that was done on
Stylo
purpose
update
because
his
I wanted
test
to
of
get
faith, you
people
have
in the
to play
crossroads
and be
talking.
nice
So
to him.
like people
You
people
can
be
rant
like,
about
"Why
the
is Serica
game, but be
Darkthorn so
nice to Stylo.
How am I supposed to do that? that's... I don't even know if that's possible, to be honest. Do you want a refund? Because I'm not sure I can even do that, to be honest.
such a piece of crap? Why is she so mean to me?" And then other people would be like, "What do you mean? She's awesome to me." And the difference would be that if you were a female character, she would be praising you, and if you were a male character, she'd be talking trash. So, yeah, that's just something I remembered. On the Whizbang Crank Toggle Buzzbox quests, the Buzzboxes were people's birthdays from the Warcraft 3 development team, but I think they changed them. And I'm pretty sure that Kaplan changed them out of spite to remove them. But I'm not sure. Good.
I was actually quite nice to Stylo in regards to his witty quiz map. I feel like that one was at least less painful to play than some of the other maps he makes, where it almost comes across as he makes like gameplay choices and design decisions that are actually just actively worse, and he knows it, but he still sticks with it from some weird stubborn point of view.
Times. What games have you been working on currently or recently? Currently, I'm working on a lot of mobile games. So there's one for a Chinese studio.
I did ban him, didn't I, after I lost? I did unban him, though, I think. I think I did.
Called Everlegion. I'm writing all of the story for that, and they're going to update that. I think they're planning to do it before Christmas. So if you wanted to catch some new dialogue, I guess you could grab that. I think it's in limited release. I think you'd have to be in Taiwan or to...
What do you mean? So all these times you were being nice to me? What are you talking about, Cacfit? Oh, he isn't banned. Okay, fair enough. Anyway, stop distracting me. Thank you.
Open the store in Taiwan to get that game. The last big game I worked on was Wasteland 3, where I wrote a lot of dialogue for Fish Lips and a lot of the random encounters that you can get in.
Can I just make a criticism here?
Dialogue for Fish Lips.
Apologies to anyone who actually has earrings like that, but that's one of the most gross, disgusting things I've ever seen from a sort of aesthetic male design choice, where some blokes will have those earrings that sort of like pull out, and it looks super gross. Like, please, if you're ever thinking of doing that, just don't do it. Just don't. There's no world, there's no universe where that looks good.
And a lot of the random encounters that you can get into roaming the wasteland, and a lot of radio stories, and I did a lot of writing for the Secret Santa area.
I'm offending a lot of African tribes. I'm more talking about the people. I've worked with someone in my office job that had earrings like that. Yeah, it's just those kind of people that actually take it on. But yeah, whether it's a cultural thing or whatever, it still looks fucking horrible. I think that's an opinion, subjective opinion I have. But I certainly wouldn't fucking want it.
Is really, really funny. So yeah, a lot of my dark humor stuff is in Wasteland 3. Most recently, there's a lot of NFT games that I'm sort of advising for, but none of them are in a state.
No, it wasn't the girl who spanked me. It was a guy. He's a tall guy. He looked good otherwise. You know, he had sort of like wavy, thick, dark hair. He was tall. You know, he had a good build, good frame, and then he just had these god awful earrings that they were black. You know, it's just sort of like it was just big black. It was like having a giant black M&M in your ear or something like that. It just looks terrible.
Where you can do anything with them, so it's not really not really something you can play. I did make Geek Words a while ago. It's on the Steam store now. It used to be a mobile app, but I had to take it down because there's a bug with the server and I couldn't fix it. So I had to take that down. Unfortunate, but oh well. But you could purchase the Game of Thrones series of puzzles for Geek Words. These are crossword puzzles that are tied to the episodes of the TV shows. And this is a secret. If you buy Geek Words now, within the next year, we're planning to update and put all the puzzles back in. There's over 1,000 puzzles for various TV shows like The Walking Dead and all the Marvel shows that were on Netflix, like Punisher and stuff. So if you buy it now, when we put in all those puzzles, I'm going to raise the price. So secret hot tip. If you get it on Steam now, you can get it at the reduced price.
There you
the
go,
price is
chat.
currently based on just having Game of Thrones puzzles. What are
Off
your
you
thoughts
go.
about Frost Giant Games and Dreamhaven? Do they have a good shot of creating good RTSs in the future? Why didn't you join your colleagues at these companies? Well, I have a history of outspokenness. I'm not saying that I won't ever join them. I am saying that it might be difficult for me to join them right now because a lot of these studios are just starting up, and like the way that they remember me is for my level design. So they don't know about all my skills and narrative design and system design, and like they just don't know that I have those skill sets, which is fine. They've got people for that already, so I would be a third wheel in that regard. But that's not saying that I wouldn't join if they presented the opportunity in the future. My thoughts about Dreamhaven, I think the concept is really good. The idea of basically forming an umbrella, a haven for dreams, if you will, to protect studios from the harsh realities of finding venture capital and dealing with all of the legalities of running a company. I think that's a really good concept, and I'm glad that Mike Morhaime did that. In terms
What Dreamhaven doing that MMO that looked like it was more sort of for kids? Like it looked pretty nice and everything, but it looked sort of more kind of like what was it, Animal Crossing kind of deal. So I don't think there was any combat in it or something like that. It was one of these kind of MMOs that perhaps, I'm sure I saw Asmongold showing a video on that or something. But it's like an MMO where you don't actually fight things exactly. I don't know how you would pull that off, but it's sort of like a bit more sort of softer for people that are a bit more normie, maybe.
of Frost Giant, I know several of the people there, and I have very good faith in them as creators, and I think that they will make a great RTS, and that is clearly their goal, is to make the next...
BDO, that's not Black Desert Online, isn't that? I'm pretty sure you have killing in there. I've never seen it, but...
a big RTS. So I have a lot of faith in that, and that's why I've been pushing people to go to frostgiant.com and subscribe so that you can see what comes up when they have something to show. So I'd say they have a good shot.
It might be tomorrow. I honestly don't know its name.
Is great, and I hope that they are all very successful, and maybe I'll join them in the future. I don't know. What do you think about remasters, re-releases of games? Do they have merit above economic gain to a company? Yeah, I think a remaster isn't necessarily a bad concept. It's just that it has to be done in the right way. So the right way is simply either you just focus on it being an update, graphical content to catch it up. Like StarCraft is a great example of that. They did that flawlessly, in my opinion. It was simply, we're just updating the graphics so that when you play in high resolution, it doesn't look like total trash. But like it was an 800 by 600 game. Like if you go back and you try to play it on like a modern monitor, like a 4K monitor, it just looks like utter garbage.
You can link it to the others in chat.
I always felt bad when I went to Korea to visit. I was watching StarCraft matches being played on TV because that's how prolific it is. It was there, maybe still is, and it just looked like trash because it was all pixelated and gross. So yeah, that's sort of like a perfect remaster example. The thing is, whatever you're doing with it, like if you're remastering something and re-releasing it, do something, make it clear what you're doing, and then deliver on that. That's all you really have to do. Reforged didn't have to end up the way it did if they just delivered what they promised, but they didn't. Let's not get into that. What do you think about MOBAs being invented indirectly through Warcraft 3? What made Dota so appealing? I think it's awesome. I think that War Edit as a creation tool for people was way ahead of its time. Like now we have things like Roblox and God.
What was this? What do you think about MOBAs being invented indirectly? Oh, yeah. Doesn't Roblox... I watched a documentary, like a YouTube series on that. I don't know if it's Roblox. I shouldn't necessarily, like, sully its name. Or Roblox is one of these ones that's sort of manipulating and exploiting children or something like that. Because it's getting them to do a whole bunch of work, way more than they should ever be doing. And it's not sort of, like, rewarding them properly. And they have, like, they have like a pedo mod guy that was like harassing some 12-year-old girl or something. Like there's a documentary on it. Go look up like Roblox. I can't remember the name of the guy who did the video, but yeah, it's oof. Yeah, there's some dodgy stuff going on there, as you can imagine, because Roblox don't sort of manage it properly. A lot of the editing or really the work that gets done on the actual games that are created by the kids is done through like Discord servers. So the communication is sort of, what is it? It's not offline, off screen. It's off the official pages. So some, stuff can be done there, and Roblox don't claim any sort of like management over it because it's not their domain.
What made Dota so appealing? I think it's awesome. I think that War Edit as a creation tool for people was way ahead of its time. Like now we have things like Roblox and Godot, and there are entire studios being developed around the concept of providing tools to players to make their own stuff, like Core. I think most of them are failing to do a good job of providing tools that are easy enough to use. I think Warcraft did a really good job with the trigger editor, making it simple to sort of visually see how things are laid out and teach logic. To make a Roblox map, you literally need to learn Lua scripting. That's not very friendly at all. My daughter loves Roblox so much. I tried to get her interested in developing games with it, and you flat out have to learn Lua, and that's kind of tough. Though I did start her with like Code Academy and things like that. But those things get boring quickly because once you get the basic concept, it just gets repetitive, and you're like, what am I really doing? Because you're not learning applicable skills in those sort of training situations, or at least you don't understand that they're applicable skills yet. So Dota was appealing because RTSs are hard for most people. They like controlling units and like casting spells and stuff. And Warcraft 3 was bridging this gap between classic RTSs where you're massing units and sending them at the opponent and like trying.
Well, that's a real controversial take there, Sexy Time. Dota is appealing to people who aren't adequate enough to play a real RTS, aka modern day gamers. Wow. Really, you're really going off board there, man. Of course. Yeah, no, Dota's basically easy mode. It's RTS easy mode. You only control one hero, you have a few abilities, you use them on your cooldown, you right-click left, you right-click right every now and then in between using your cooldowns to make sure you dodge enemy abilities, and that's roughly all you're doing the entire game. It's easy. Like, it's infinitely more easy to be good at, like, Dota or League of Legends or something like that. It's not shots even fired, it's just facts. That's okay. Like, it's not saying, like, I mean, I play Warcraft 3, but I would be like, I'm not even the greatest Warcraft 3 player. But if I played StarCraft 2 or StarCraft, I'd have a way harder time. Like, Warcraft 3, in my opinion, is a lot easier to play than StarCraft or StarCraft 2. Those two games are way more hassle. StarCraft because it's jank and like not enough hotkeys and all that kind of stuff, like the control aspect. StarCraft 2 is much better control aspect, but there's like 50,000 things that are happening at the same time. So yeah, that's not my style. So yeah, that's okay. You know, like League of Legends, League of Legends is kind of the closest thing you have to a first-person shooter in an isometric game, if that makes sense. A first-person shooter is very straightforward as well. Obviously, positioning, listening out, and good aim, but there's not really much else other than just reactive abilities. So yeah, and it's the same sort of deal.
Micromanage the
I haven't seen that yet, Dark Mega, no. Don't at me.
Individual units in a battle. And then we had this hero unit who had spells that he could cast. With Warcraft 3, you'll notice that the mana costs are very high.
I think they did more
mana, and it doesn't regen very quickly. So you're casting 1, 2, 3 spells, and your hero's kind of done unless you can find a mana potion or something. What made Dota so appealing was that it was like, yeah, it's the use of these abilities on this one hero unit that makes it so compelling. So you increase their mana pool and their mana regeneration, and so they're
What are you talking about, Vano? You can say that for someone going BM micro only in Warcraft 3, but everyone in mobile game has this easy gameplay. It doesn't favor everyone. BM micro in Warcraft 3 is actually hard. It's actually legit hard to control your Blade Master effectively on top of grunts, raiders, spirit walkers, shaman, and second hero supporting position in micro. Like, that's a lot. Not to mention, often, once you get level 3 on the Blade Master, you have to spend the majority of the time concentrating on what your opponent's doing, trying to creep jack, follow them around, not get killed in the process, whilst you're creeping up a second hero. So you're killing creeps, trying not to lose your units, and moving throughout the map whilst keeping an eye on your opponent with your Blade Master. That's way hard.
Spells more often, and it's like, when do I use this ability in this combat to be most effective? And what made it compelling was that you're just controlling one unit now, but you've still got sort of the feeling of the action of the RTS in that one unit does something. It just was the first to sort of capitalize on that. The aspect of the RTS being sort of a 3/4 top-down kind of view, controlling a unit, clicking it around on a map, and using multiple abilities on that unit in the best way possible to defeat your opponent. It invented a new genre, and that's freaking amazing. That came from user-made maps. Why don't more studios make user-made maps? Well, they are now.
I like Teamfight Tactics. I'm sure people are still playing it, so I shouldn't sort of say, are people still playing? Because obviously they are. But I feel like that should have taken off and like really sort of solidified itself as one of those genres that are way up there, the auto battler. But if it's like an auto battler that's done right in the sense of you feel like you're building up to something, you're trying to, it's exciting to sort of try to get like a 3 of the same type of unit so you can build that into one strong unit, that kind of thing. Like that's always fun to me. And then getting the combos of if you've got 3 of these different type of units and they give you like a mana regeneration buff which allows them to use Fan of Knives more often, that kind of thing. Like I thought that was genuinely quite fun.
So that's what Roblox is. That's what Core is. That's what several studios are doing. But I don't think they're focusing on their tools the way they should be. How did you start
Kekfit is pushing his luck again.
your game development career? What was your first game you worked on and your memories of your early development experiences? I started in quality assurance. I do have an origin video for this to see how I got into it exactly, but I'll skip to being in QA. The first game I did quality assurance for was Diablo for the Macintosh. It was a lot of fun because back then it was like, play the game and find bugs. Quality assurance when I started was not as methodical as it is now, where there's a bunch of checklists and burn down sheets. And it was more about, can you do something creative enough to find a bug? And that was what I enjoyed because I found all sorts of crazy bugs that way. I think it was Joe Frayne who found the crotch bow. Basically, you could get it where the Amazon would shoot arrows out of her crotch as opposed to the bow, which
Now, why did that need to be fixed?
we all thought was hilarious because we were all, 18, 19 years old. My early days in QA were great because you clocked in and clocked out, so there was no overtime or anything like that unless it was paid. But, I was making like $8 an hour, so it's not exactly like an amazing kind of pay. But then we would all go to lunch together and we'd talk about games. And it was, since everyone at Blizzard loved games, we all had this instant camaraderie, and it was just a really good time. And I really enjoyed the early years there. In terms of the first game I worked on in a non-QA role, it was StarCraft for the N64. I made the cooperative campaign mission and I wrote the story for it, though there's some contention about who wrote that story now. The idea of infested Stukov and a co-op campaign mission that primarily came from me as far as I recall. And I worked on that mission with Christian Arechi. He was really good at layout. So he did the layout of the areas and then I did all the campaign triggers for the cooperative aspects, which were actually quite difficult because first of all, you're using an N64 controller. I knew that they would be using it, so I had to sort of keep in mind what units I should give and how to keep it within certain constraints. But yeah, it was really fun. What is your proudest achievement in development? My proudest achievement? I don't know. I guess it's all the people that I've reached. Like, I don't really take pride in any individual thing that I've done on any of my missions or any of the games I've worked on. For Oddworld Stranger's Wrath, there's a sniper character, and I created a script for how that sniper character works, where his first shot is it's like close, but it's going to miss. So it sort of alerts you that there's a sniper there, and then you can turn and fight with him. And then I put some triggers around him so that if you used a certain shot and he got knocked unconscious, he would one shot get flung out, and it would fling his money and stuff out too, to sort of safety it for the player. And I was really proud of that back then, because it's one of those things where I took into consideration how a player feels and what that experience is like when you're dealing with snipers. And I was proud of that in terms of like coming up with that. And it got other designers on Oddworld Stranger's Wrath saw what I had done with that, and they were like, oh yeah, I just took that and copied it because it was so good. So I was pretty proud of that. The person who told me that was Gautam Babar, who went on he's at Valve, so that was cool. I think the most humbling thing has been the number of people who have reached out to me now in light of like learning who I am and what I did and going, oh my God, Warcraft 3 and some of the missions that you did was what made me want to go into game.
Is he talking about you, Dark Mega? I think he might be talking about you.
Development. That's so freaking cool. Like, what more could I hope to achieve than to sort of usher in a new generation of game developers and game designers who learn from my missions what they
50
like
messages a day
and creating their own. I inspired other people to create. That's amazing. So I couldn't be more proud of that. Yeah. Get choked up. What is your least proud moment in development? So my least proud moment in terms of like content that I created, it's usually the things that I don't have control over that make me unhappy. For example, I worked on the Da Vinci Code game for the PC, and I designed the majority of the puzzles. I designed a lot of the levels. I wrote almost the entirety of the script and most of the in-game dialogue, and all of that ruined because the owner of the studio decided that it had to have combat, which doesn't make any sense. It should have been a classic adventure game, and it could have.
I like to envision that guy being a jock or something. It's like everyone else around the table in the meeting is sort of like thinking of these complicated puzzles that are accessible to everyone if they can put the time and effort into learning how they're done. And then this jock just like walks in, slaps his dick on the table and says, "He's got to be fighting in this." It was just like, well, it's not even a fighting game. I don't care. I want swords. I want axes. I love that idea. Obviously from like pure just how stupid the idea is, but yeah.
Then a really cool one with like some stealth elements and whatnot. And it just got ruined because some guy decided that Robert Langford had to fight cops. just stupid. It's so stupid. So I'm proud of my work on it.
Guns.
I am
Space
unhappy with the
guns.
result. It's my lowest rated game, like it's 74 or something on Metacritic. And so it's sort of this combination of I'm proud of what I did, but damn, the end result was so crap because of one stupid decision. That's why it's so important to sort of know who you're working with. Like when you go to a new game studio, you want to make sure that you're working with people who are of like mind and aren't in a position of power to make really stupid decisions. So lately I've noticed that as soon as I find someone whom is in control and makes dumb decisions, I leave because I know what's going to happen. They're going to do something stupid and ruin what could have been good. That is the most disappointment I've ever had in my career.
That's probably like 90% of managers.
Is when I do really good work and then it's ruined by one or two dumb decisions that are out of my control. Disregarding technological and economic limits, if you would have a chance to develop any game, what would you work on? You know, there aren't really any technological or economic limits stopping me from making whatever I really want to at this point. I think what's stopping me is that there are so many things that I want to do that I almost am relying on other people to direct my attention to what I should do. Because I want to make a cool RPG, I want to make a really cool detective game, I want to make a really cool open world exploration game. Like there's all these things that I want to do. But the truth of game development is that you need other people who also want to do the same thing. So I'm kind of looking for groups that I can go with and do the cool things that I want to do within the framework of them also wanting to do cool things in that same sort of setting. Or
You need a team that all have their own set of skills that blend and work with each other.
gameplay dynamic or whatever the case may be. And that's kind of why I'm involved in so many projects at once right now, though I think it's a few too many. When I was younger, I would have said flat out like a JRPG style RPG, like a full-blown story-driven RPG. I'm not sure that's true anymore. The thing I'm jonesing to make is like a tactics RPG. So I'm kind of hoping to get an opportunity to do that soon. And I think I found an opportunity for it, but we'll see. But yeah, because there's so many things I want to do, I kind of rely on finding the right people to work with on those ideas. And that's actually the most difficult part, is finding people who you have real synergy with. I hate using that word, but it's the only way to describe it. Finding that team that you can work really well with and build off of each other, as opposed to like people tearing each other down. Where do you see RTSs like Warcraft 3 or StarCraft 2 in a few years?
Dead.
Well, I mean, War 3 and StarCraft 2 are going to be mainstays of the RTS genre for eternity. I don't think they're ever really going away at this point. But do you mean where do I see RTS as a genre in a few years? I think there's a coming revitalization. I see a lot of things being worked on in the background, most of which I can't discuss. But I mean, like Frost Giant is a good example. They've basically promised to evolve the RTS. So I see the RPG aspects coming up more and being more well-defined, because I think that Dota sort of proved that having a really powerful hero is super exciting and something you want to focus on. And then maybe Mo O'Brien's original vision of what Warcraft 3 should have been, maybe that comes to pass, where you have a main hero leading the charge and you're using the abilities and focusing on that, and then the units sort of operate in a smart way around them. The strategic elements are still there because you're building that army, but you don't necessarily have to control them directly, but maybe you can take over. I don't know. There's a
RTS is a difficult one. It'd be nice, but the thing is like these days, I mean, normally things go full circle, right? That's just the way of life. Like things that weren't popular, well, they were popular 50 years ago, but then say, for example, after 15 years of that being popular, they then fell off, but then suddenly they've had a resurgence. Like this kind of stuff happens all the time to everything in life. RTS is a harder one for that to happen to, because the way the world is now with gaming is it gets dumber and easier, generally speaking. Like, it's super hard, I think, to put out a complicated game these days and expect people to play it, because people don't want that. They're too egotistic. They want to be, in quotation marks, good or the best at something, and it's much easier to be the best at something where you got barely any control. You barely need to do anything. So a lot of autoplay, for example, comes in and such, or only controlling one hero, that sort of thing. Like, it's much harder these days to try to sell an RTS game. The only thing that you can say for a revitalization of the RTS genre is the fact that there really, like I was saying earlier, there isn't much of a competition right now for RTS. So if someone can scratch that itch and there's enough people to go out there and buy it, then sure, you can do really well potentially, because there's not many people competing right now in that regard. So, but it's difficult to get people to play it because, they don't want to put the effort in as much as they used to back in the old days, back in my days.
lot of ways to go, and I think we'll see a number of
I'm basically calling all of you Zoomers filthy casuals.
iterations on that in the next 2 to 3 years. I think we'll definitely see a lot of RTSs coming back into the limelight, and then who knows, maybe if someone finds the right way to monetize that and actually makes billions of dollars, then maybe you'll see a Warcraft 4, but I still highly doubt that. Were there any core design principles or goals you had when designing each mission? Yeah, it's the basic core design principles of all game making, which is to think about the user experience. What is the player experiencing here? How can I show the player where to go, leading the player's eye, and like what interesting things would be happening here? What's going on in the game lore? What should be occurring in these situations? It's basically the whole user experience, and that's
random. Can you just time out Fano for me, please?
That's what I was focused on whenever I was designing a mission. What story am I telling? How do I tell that story to the player in a way that they understand it? And how do I turn that into an experience where they're experiencing the story rather than me telling them the story? Avoiding exposition, which a lot of games are really bad at these days. Yeah, the core design principle is always, what is the user experience and how can I improve it? What is your fondest memory of working on Warcraft 3? Does anything stand out that makes you nostalgic? Of the actual work? You know, the work itself kind of sucked. Let's be real. Like, these were grueling hours. There was at least 2 occasions where I spent the night there because I had to finish a mission before the next day so that it could be tested in time. That is not the right way to do things, because when you're operating on so little sleep, your brain stops functioning and you're just not coming up with good solutions. In terms of nostalgia for working at Blizzard, like, nothing comes to mind. Like, I don't have any nostalgia for that time period. I have nostalgia for the things I created, but the work environment, not a damn thing. The work environment was...
I think it's because Jeff Kaplan was such a dick, I guess. That's a shame, man. Could have been different.
something I tolerated so that I could create cool stuff. Which is a terrible way to think about it, but I mean, that's basically what it was. When I run into a bad work environment now, I'm just like, see ya, I'm out. And so I say no to a lot of stuff that others might think me crazy for, but you know, my mental health and well-being is more important than working on the next killer game. And when they say killer game, they mean they would literally kill every freaking person working at the studio if it meant the game would be better, and they will try. Like, I'm watching you.
Don't Rockstar do that.
I know what you're about. I had an interview with Remedy that kind of put me off them recently, and you get a bunch of these studios, they get big and they make cool games and they make millions of dollars, and like, well, why wouldn't everyone want to work for us? We're so cool, so we can offer you lower wages and we can offer you extended work hours for no extra pay and get away with it. Screw that. I don't need to do that, and nobody should tolerate that. Nobody. I don't care if you want to be in games and you haven't gotten your opportunity yet. Don't accept it. Just don't. Walk out. Unionize. Strike. Because if you don't, you get abused. And no one should tolerate abuse. Ever. So yeah, my fondest memory of working on Warcraft 3 is actually seeing people experience joy as they play my missions, and hearing the stories of people having played Warcraft 3 and deciding to make game design a career. And like, those are the things that I fondly remember now. And these are new memories, and that's makes it even cooler. In terms of nostalgia, look.
Based and red-pilled Dave. Yeah. Well, there you go. Oh, I'm sure you should get a lot of compliments, really, because he made some of the best maps for Warcraft 3, so he's always got that on his resume, mental resume, if nothing else. Just knowing that.
Looking through the map editor, I have some nostalgia for the creation aspects of it and creating the missions and the tools that I had, but beyond that, not much. And that's it. Yeah, that's the end. So there's no more questions from the original Ask Me Anything that I can answer myself anymore. The answers that I give would be unsatisfactory because I don't have personal knowledge of like what Metzen was thinking when he wrote this, or what Sammy was thinking when he created some piece of art. There's just no way for me to answer those questions in a satisfactory way, and I don't want to speculate.
Sammy coming up with like the fifth random panda that he wants to insert into one of the maps.
Too much, because the point of this whole thing is to give you real answers. That said, I believe we will have at least one person from the original team answering more questions, so I'm looking forward to that. In terms of what I'm going to do next, I'm thinking that maybe I'm going to do a live stream, and maybe I'm going to open up the map editor and step through all the triggers of my missions, and maybe from that there will be a series that spawns of me sort of explaining how I did all the different triggers and going through the thought process and sort of explaining the design and the user experience sort of methodology.
There you go. Overclock can learn something from this.
And if that would be interesting to you, it would be much appreciated if you like and subscribe and spread this around to other people who might be interested in that. Anyone who you think is an aspiring game designer, please bring them into my channel. Show them my YouTube videos, show them Game Design 101. Chat. If you have kids who are thinking about games as a career, show them Game Design 101, because I think that that's a really good intro, and I'm getting a lot of positive feedback on it. I don't have time right now, but I will be continuing the Game Design 101 series soon. TM. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this latest Warcraft AMA. I may or may not be part of the series as it continues forward. It really depends. It may turn out that certain developers just have no time, or they need someone to ask them the questions, or maybe it becomes a phone interview. I'm trying, whatever it takes, I'm going to try and get the series done. Just, you know, enjoy this nostalgia while you can. In July, I think, celebrating the 20th anniversary of Warcraft 3's release, I think that will be where I do a final video and we'll all say a tearful farewell. But that is in the future. We don't have to worry about it now. So like and subscribe and have a good day.
You too. Thank you, Dave. There you go. There's his origin story. You can check that out. Any aspiring map makers. So thanks Abelhawk and Dave for their videos here. Make sure to check them out. I'll put a link in the video description below so you can do so. And there you go.